Madam Secretary, I thought I understood your proposed budget. I want to walk you through it again. Isn't it a fact that the president's proposed budget increases spending by $500 billion over the current budget?
There is an increase in 24 over 23 by about that much
Okay.
in outlays.
Isn't it a fact that the president's budget proposes new taxes of $4.7 trillion?
That's probably right, yes.
Okay. And isn't it a fact, I'm talking about gross debt now, not public, not debt held by the public. Isn't it a fact that under the president's proposed budget, gross debt would go from $32.7 trillion at the close of this year to $50.7 trillion by 2033?
Debt subject to statutory limitation, yes, would go, as you said.
So the president's budget would increase our debt by $18 trillion.
Which is $3 trillion less
Right.
than it would increase without the proposals in the president's budget.
So what the president's saying is, these are my words, not his. Because of his budget, we're going to have 3 heart attacks and a stroke instead of 4 heart attacks and a stroke.
Well, I would not agree that we're going to have 3 heart attacks and a stroke because we have a very large economy. And while the numbers that you cite are very big numbers, the size of our economy is also extremely large. And I think a better metric for assessing what the impact of the budget is on our economy and whether or not it's manageable is real net interest on the real net interest payments that we have to make relative to the size of our economy. And those real net interest payments run throughout the 10 years of the budget at around or under 1% of GDP, which is historically normal. So debt is increasing, the size of the economy is increasing, interest rates are moving back toward more normal levels after a period of many years in which they were exceptionally low. And yet, overall, what you see in this budget is real net interest on the debt stabilizing at about 1% of GDP, which is a manageable and historically normal number.
So $51 trillion of debt up from $33 trillion doesn't bother you?
I think the path that is set out in the president's budget is fiscally sustainable.
Okay. Well, how much debt is too much? Tell me that.
Well, I just gave you the metric that I think is best for assessing fiscal sustainability.
Okay. Let me ask it in simpler terms. I didn't follow you there. What percentage of our GDP, what debt as a percentage of our GDP is too much?
So it depends on what interest rates are. And real interest rates have been extremely low. This budget and previous budgets have projected that they would move up toward more normal levels over time, but certainly not the levels that we saw several decades ago. And
could you
we
just
can't
answer my
judge-
question, Madam Secretary? What percentage of our debt of our GDP is too much?
Well, this budget has debt held by the public moving up to around 109% of GDP.
And that's not too much, in your opinion?
Historically, it's a high level, but on the other hand, interest rates, real interest rates, have moved down substantially in recent decades. And so higher levels of debt to GDP are sustainable with lower real interest rates. And on balance, as I said, the interest burden of the debt is at a level that is quite reasonable in historic terms.
Madam Secretary, you're a Keynesian.
Well, I don't quite know what you mean by that, but I've certainly
Well,
studied
do you
Keynesian.
believe it's acceptable, indeed, it's admirable for government when you're in a slow period, a recession, or bordering a recession, to stimulate the economy by borrowing money and spending?
It certainly can be. I certainly,
That's
there
what I
are
mean.
different.
That's what I mean by Keynesian. Do you support that?
Well, there are different tools that can be used to stimulate an economy that's in a downturn, and it's monetary policy is an alternative tool. And
But let me go back to my question. Keynes said that when you're in a recession, you can borrow money and spend it, government can, to stimulate the economy and get you out of the recession.
Well, I'm not going to make a blanket statement that I agree with that.
Well, let me ask you if you agree with this. A lot of people who say they're Keynesians, and based on what I've read of your writings, you are a Keynesian.
But
they forget the second part of what Keynes said. He said after you get out of the recession, you pay the money back. Did he not?
I don't recall that he said that.
He said it. I can show you that one too.
Well, show that to me.
I promised the chairman I wouldn't go over, and I want to yield back 2 seconds.